I'm Leela Ree.
And I'm Nick B.
Listen, we're just two single girls from the City of Roses discussing all things love, lust, and perception.
And roses are a symbol of all things beautiful about love.
But as you know, love can get a little dirty, so we're here to talk about it.
Dirty Roses Podcast starts now.
Before we begin this episode, we want to issue a trigger warning. Today, we'll be discussing domestic violence, a sensitive and potentially distressing topic. If you or someone you know is experiencing domestic violence, please know that help is available. You can contact the National Domestic Violence Hotline at 1-800-799-SAFE or text the word START to 88788. Or if you are in immediate danger, please call emergency services. Our intention in discussing this topic is to raise awareness, provide support, and encourage conversations about prevention and intervention. Listener discretion is advised.
Hey, I'm Leela Ree.
And I'm Nick B.
And welcome to Dirty Roses Podcast. Well, today we are getting serious, and we've got some amazing, beautiful ladies in the studio with us that kind of hopped in our DMs on a professional tip. You know what I'm saying? But they're doing
the way we like,
right? The way we like. This, you hop in my DMs all the time when it's like this. I love this. They're doing an event and they wanted to promote it on the show, and I said, why don't y'all come and tell your stories, because they're really deep, they're really important, and this is a good topic. I mean, it's something that everybody has either witnessed, experienced, or they know somebody that knows somebody at the minimum, right?
It's the dirty part of the roses.
It is. It's and not the good kind of dirty. No. We talked about those in other episodes. Yes, we did. But today we are joined by Miss Yolanda Merriweather and Miss Kenyatta Trice, and they are, well, Yolanda and her co-founder, who is not here today, unfortunately, but we're gonna share a little bit about her. Okay. But they're putting on an event called, Survivors of Domestic Violence, and it's going to be this amazing event that they're going to be hosting for survivors, a nice brunch, and they're going to talk about it a little bit later. But Miss Yolanda, you are the co-founder or founder of the Inner Beauty in You, and it's a nonprofit, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
I love this. So tell us a little bit about yourself and about your nonprofit.
Okay, well, my name is Yolanda Merriweather. I was born in Portland, Oregon. I did live in Las Vegas for 12 years, in Georgia close to 5. Mm-hmm. I ended up coming back here in 2010. Inner Beauty and You had been in my heart since maybe I was probably about a 17-year-old young woman.
Wow. Okay.
And the reason why it came about is that in my family structure, my father's side of the family was Creole, and my mother's side of the family were black, and I was dark like my mother, and all the rest of the side of the family were light-skinned.
Got you. Okay.
So I was in a colorist environment, yeah. And so I would find myself often hurt and feeling less than. And one day my grandmother said, beauty's not on the outside, it's on the inside.
Yes. Oh, I love it.
And that no matter what you do, if you don't treat people the way you're supposed to treat them, you can be beautiful on the outside,
right? And
it's not going to matter.
And still,
That was the first part. The second part that came in with the Inner Beauty in You, it had been in my heart for over 20 years.
Okay.
Was the fact that many years ago I felt that women, we were disposable. We came a dime a dozen. We were always the one loving and giving, and even some beautiful women were being misused and stuff. Right. And I was like, you know what? And then I remember being younger. I had my son when I was 17, and I thought, what if there was somebody there to tell me that I didn't have to be out there like that?
Right.
I could go to college. I needed to finish school. I needed to do this. Someone to invest into me.
Yes.
And I said, I'm going to start this as a mentorship program for young women. But then I was like, okay, they start young, and when they're like 9 and 10, they're looking at the teenage girls. But then the teenage girls can often, not all, turn into the young women that are at home with the children, not working, living on the system.
Yeah.
So I said, this is for the empowerment of all women.
I love it.
What hit me deeply was the fact that during this starting off doing this, I was running into a lot of women that were coming out of domestic violence situations.
Okay.
Broken women, like didn't want to work, didn't want to eat. They were a shell of themselves.
Yeah.
And me and Kalandra Porter Wright, she's the founder, director of Porterhouse Resources, which is all about home ownership, credit repair, getting your GED, going to school. She's the education guru.
I love it.
And so she was like, I was starting my nonprofit, and I wasn't 501c3 yet, and I was going to all the nonprofits and asking them, will you sponsor me? Will you fiscally sponsor me? And they wouldn't. They wouldn't help me. They closed me out. And so Kalandra said, I believe your heart, and I believe in what you're doing. I'm going to sponsor you. So she would let me apply for stuff under her sponsorship.
Oh, wow.
To get things going. And so we began to get things going, and then my 501c3 came through. And then we said, oh girl, we don't care if your 501c3 came through.
You're still partnering.
We are about to we were trying to get with other women and nonprofits to do there's power in numbers. The Bible says that when two are together, one can help the other up if they fall, right? So I said, you know what, girl, guess what? I think that we should take our nonprofits and be partners.
I love it.
And so we have she still has her own nonprofit. I still have mine. But with her education side, my mentorship side, we feel like the two of us together can put that together. So that's kind of how Inner Beauty and You came about.
I love it.
It still does with mentorship. We did adopt families for Christmas. We have on staff a trauma-informed social worker with her master's degree for women. Women who are self-trafficked, there is someone on our group that can help them. It's no longer just about mentoring. It's about the empowerment of women.
Because you can mentor people, but if you haven't helped them or not even fix, but just help them heal from what they're going through, that mentorship doesn't mean anything. Oh, I love that story. We're gonna get back to what we're here for, but I want to introduce Miss Kenyatta Trice with Trice OCS. Ma'am, tell us about yourself and your nonprofit.
Yes, so
it's for profit.
I'm
sorry. Yes, she said I make my money. Hold on.
It's about the coin. I'm about the coin. So Kenyatta Trice, born and raised Portland, Oregon, grew up in Northeast Portland, graduated from Jefferson High School.
Generals.
Go Tag. Go Tag.
We still beef over high schools at our fine wine age.
Jeff Grant Benson right here.
It's going to go forever. And then Vancouver. On
the other side of the water. On the other side of the water. So a year after graduation, we had that idea of what do you want to be when you grow up? What does it look like? I didn't know. I was like, I'll just be in somewhere administration. I'll be an executive admin, making some money. That'll be fine. I like to help out and help out with like producing and get things through a process. So a year after graduation, I met a man and he was beautiful and all the things, but he was also abusive. So that was part of my growing up, was being a part of this domestic violence relationship. Leaving that relationship, or during that relationship, only working warehouse. I'm on top of roofs, replacing shingles. I'm tearing down walls. I'm putting tile in on floors.
So major labor.
Major labor, right? From admin, being behind the desk, answering the phone. So getting back into, once I left that relationship, getting back into the job market was hard. Because now it's like, how can I sell myself on paper as a Black woman? When it happened, I had scars and marks. So like, how can I be the face of a company?
Oh, wow.
Where most of the companies are primarily white that pay a good amount of money. So I struggled hard. Ended up at a staffing agency where I was like, I'll just do temporary jobs until I can get there. Creating that plan to work in warehouse, somewhere in the back office doing order entry, somewhere that can get me closer to working in an office. Still didn't know what I want to be. Just know I need to work at this point, right? So just going through that process at the staffing agency, going to different jobs, they offered me a position. So now I'm working there as a staffing assistant, helping people attain employment.
Right.
It was the first Black-owned staffing agency in
Oh,
Florida.
yeah.
Brooks
Brooks
Staffing.
Staffing.
Yeah.
I worked for there.
Yeah.
For a moment.
A lot of people went through there.
Yeah, that's a staple.
Yeah, it is. So working
Based
there.
right here in Alberta, right?
It's now it's gone.
No, I know.
Oh, no,
They
no.
used to be.
Yeah.
Like on 10th in Alberta.
Yeah.
Okay.
So worked there, helping people with barriers get to employment. So that's where I kind of started understanding what barriers there were, even though I was going through them, didn't really realize it. But learning how to help other folks attain the jobs that they want based on what their paper looks like. So I left that position to work at Bradley Angle, which is the Domestic Violence Resource Center, as the Economic Empowerment Coordinator, working with survivors and helping them attain their financial stability again. So in doing that, I still help people with their resumes. I'm like, they're like, can I do my resume? I'm like, yeah, I'll do it real quick. And then I was like, well, let me charge a little $25.
Right.
That's where that coin comes in.
I'm helping you make this money. We're going to make
like
some
a
money
little
too.
change.
Right.
So I started, charging. And then, during that time, that financial abuse part really was there with me. And I was struggling. But I was making this little money on the side, being able to pay bills, provide food for the house, things of that nature. And then it dawned on me through the position at Bradley Angle when I went to go audit a class about business, because that is one of the options that domestic violence survivors may have to go through, is owning their own business. I learned that I have a business. And I'm like, oh,
Yes.
I have a service. Oh, I do track, because I was keeping track of who I had and how much money. And I was like, get out of here. And then one day, I'm paying my bills, and I'm always behind on bills, and I'm paying. I'm like, why do I got extra money?
Oh,
so like, Lord, I must have forgot. Well, I thought I forgot a bill. I was nervous. It scared me. I was like, I forgot to pay a bill. Everything depended on me making money every month so I can pay my rent, electricity. So I'm like, Lord, I cannot forget a bill. So I'm like scrambling, trying to figure it out, and then it clicked like, oh, my other money paid for it.
That side money. That money came
This
in.
is a whole business.
Yes.
So then that's when I started incorporating the things that I learned from auditing the class to incorporate for my own business. So that bought about Trice Occupational Consulting Solutions.
There we go.
Trice OCS. So some people call me the resume lady.
Yes.
I've helped a lot of folks just rebuild themselves on paper.
Yeah.
Understanding what the employer looks at, understanding what is needed for a person to attain a job is definitely helpful. And even just for myself in that position where I'm looking for work. Yeah. Having warehouse. How can I get from warehouse to admin?
Because you've got the full gambit of experience at this point. Yeah.
I know some people that need your services today.
Right.
So that's what I did. Yeah. So and then that kind of turned into me doing business development, because people are like, well, look at my business plan and tell me what you think. And I'm like, oh, I don't do those. I do resumes. Yeah. And then I was like, well, let me look. So I looked and I'm like, oh, it's essentially the same.
You don't know what you know until you start doing it. You're like, wait a minute, I do have this experience.
Yep.
Yes.
So then built on that and so on and so on. So in my business, I do business consulting and employment consulting. And then also I am the director of the Oregon Minority Business Development Agency.
Yes, ma'am.
Wow.
Yes, ma'am. We work with minority businesses in Oregon to get them to the next level in earning revenue.
I love it. Okay, and so you tapped into a little bit about that you have some experience with domestic violence.
Yes.
And I know that you, Yolanda, as well, and then also Miss Calandra does, and she's not here to share a story, but this is kind of how you guys are collaborating right now, because she is going to be the keynote speaker at this event that I mentioned earlier on. So we would love to know about the event and who's coming, who's allowed to come, how can they get there, like what does this look like?
Absolutely. Me and Calandra, she actually resides in California. And she owns a home in California and also Lake Oswego in her nonprofit.
Fancy.
Okay. She got that. Lake Oswego?
Business owner. She owns a logistics company, and she actually drives 18-wheelers.
Oh,
nice.
So when I said that nobody would take me under their wing, she did.
Yeah.
So she was like, Yolanda, this is a donation to your nonprofit. $300. I want you to buy as many turkeys as you can.
Okay.
And give it out.
Okay.
So she's just been my mentor. So what ended up happening, we were talking about doing something for Mother's Day.
Okay.
But in the meanwhile, we were running into these broken women. And she said, how about we do a dinner or a event to love on these women and make them feel good, like get them gala dresses, have their makeup done, hair, let's treat them like queens. And so we were looking at different places, and she's from Los Angeles, and people from Los Angeles, they're kind of a little different from us because they're more like
they have stuff.
Hollywood.
There's
Hollywood.
places to go.
A little Hollywood.
They're like, we're gonna be at the community center here in Portland, and we're gonna charge $50.
She was like, no, I want to celebrate them on the water.
Oh,
I want them on
Like,
the water.
you
And
got water
I said, okay.
the Willamette.
Are we gonna be at your house in Lake Oswego?
Right, that part.
The water.
So she called me and she said, Yolanda, I got secured May 4th. I think that's the weekend before Mother's Day.
Okay.
For Salty's on the Columbia.
Love that restaurant.
And
Right. Good
we
brunch.
are going to pay and sponsor 10 women from domestic violence shelters or anybody.
Okay.
Right now we only have 2, but if you have anybody you want to refer over for their story, we're gonna bring them in. They gonna be dressed to the nines.
Oh.
They're gonna have a full course meal, appetizers, beverages.
Okay.
But then we had probably like the room fits about 35, and so we had like the other seats to fill.
Okay.
But then we were like, okay, but we could also fill the other room too. And then so we said we're gonna do it because we want these women to know that they're loved. And what I was always taught from a child, that love covers a multitude of sins.
Right.
Love covers things, and it'll bring people back from mental illness. It'll bring people back from drug addiction. So we said we're going to do that. And so we were facing a lot of opposition, like, why would you pick the most expensive place? Like, you can treat these
Because they don't deserve to have nice stuff. Shit.
No, like they were like, you can
Feed
get them
more.
a good meal. No, somebody said let's do it at IHOP, and I was like, wait a minute.
That's
so
not good.
me and Kalanda,
Everybody likes pancakes though.
Some pancakes.
Pancakes and
We're gonna
syrup.
have some pancakes. Okay, so we're
you
gonna
know,
add that to the list of places that we are not going to take women.
It was just
There's a list.
to me it felt disrespectful.
That is very
that I was
disrespectful.
going to honor
No
them.
disrespect to IHOP. It's just not
We like
that
IHOP.
event.
We like your waffles.
And if they want to sponsor something, please holler at these ladies because we
'Cause
could
that
do
short
it. We
stack.
could do an event,
Right.
just not this event.
Right. So we wanted them to be we want them to be treated like movie stars. You know how there's a red carpet and all that? They deserve it.
Yeah.
And so we went, we paid, gosh, they're expensive. But we went half
Okay.
on the initial cost of it,
Okay.
which I don't know if I'm supposed to say this or not, but it was
Don't
really-
burn no
Probably
bridges.
not.
Don't burn no bridges, girls.
Okay,
If
it
you
was
got
a
some
lot.
deals,
And
just know you're gonna be treated well when you go there.
it was a lot. And then we said we're going to take the other tickets and we're going to sell them
Okay.
so people can come and support them.
Okay.
And the second part of that is any proceeds from people donating. We're going to donate to a domestic violence home, and then we were going to take the difference and apply it to the mentorship program at Inner Beauty and You.
I love it.
So I had put an ad in Black Portland. I said, you know, I need women that have walked through this and whatever. And a young woman inboxed me, and she said, you need to speak with Kenyatta Trice.
Oh.
And so I inboxed her. And I had inboxed her about a lot of stuff in the past that didn't come to pass. So I was nervous about inboxing her because I didn't want her to think, oh God,
Here she
comes
goes.
with a new idea. And I said, Kenyatta, we want you to be the keynote speaker because everybody that mentions your name she's respected in the town.
Oh, yeah.
She is a woman of integrity. She's a woman of honesty. She got a heart. She's a businesswoman. She's a boss. She's a boss.
We're gonna add
That's
hype
all I
woman
gotta
to your
say.
job description.
While you're doing her resume, you put a hype woman right there at the top.
And I simply said to her what it was about, and you know what she said? Yeah, I'll do it.
I love it.
And then I said,
Well, wait.
And I was thinking,
I will say, she said speaker.
Speaker.
It is a keynote. I learned about the keynote after, but it's.
But if you turn into the reason why she turned into the keynote is because the accolades about who she was so great.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so
wait, one more. So when she started posting some of the pictures, I'm like, why am I the only one on the picture? I thought she said there was other people. And then that's when I learned I was the keynote.
That you're the featured speaker.
So we have a few more people that were going to do it. There were some people, and I'm just going to tell the truth, I'm going to put it out there. There were some people who were actually jealous of the fact that we wanted to spend money on women. And one of them was going to be a speaker. And we did a Christmas program, and one of the other girls was like, well, my kids need toys too. Why are you joining a nonprofit if you're not willing to give to others?
Yeah, it's the spirit of
And
giving.
so I told her, sign up for our Christmas list and I'll get you in. So they were in this group causing sowing discord and doing things, so they had to go.
Okay.
So
understood.
It's going to probably be told in Portland anyway, so you might as well hear it from the mouth anyway. They were being negative.
Gotcha.
We don't
you
do
heard it here
negative
first.
in this organization. We operate in love.
Yeah,
we operate
absolutely.
in uplifting women. So Kalandra is another woman who had experienced extreme domestic violence.
Gotcha. Yeah.
One of the young ladies who was being slanderous and disrespectful to the organization, she was removed from being a speaker because we don't want poison.
Right. It's a healing space. It's we want to keep
healing.
that energy.
It's safe.
Yeah,
so she was removed.
Okay.
We have another young, not a young lady. I'm tripping out.
She said she ain't young.
I'm not young. I'm 50. A woman of substance. A woman of wisdom.
Yes.
I like that, woman of wisdom.
Her name is Walida Ross.
Okay.
She's going to also be a speaker.
Okay.
But they're going to come through and they're going to give 10, 15 minutes of what they have to
throughout
say.
the day. Okay.
But I really wanted Kenyatta to have the space to feed into these women because of her spirit and what she does in the community.
Right, absolutely. So I know that, we're talking about domestic violence. We're talking about all three of you all that you are putting this event together or being the keynote on have all had some sort of experience with domestic violence. And I don't know how much you guys care to share about your story, but I feel like it's important to kind
tell
of
it all.
to tell. Well, we only got an hour, so no, we're gonna get to it.
So I would love to hear a little bit about your story since you're being honored as the keynote speaker.
Yeah.
What is it that what's a little bit of your story, if you don't mind?
It's a lot of bit of the story. But I mean, with mine, like I said, I met a man who was different. He was older. He was fine. He had his own business. He was ambitious, like all these things that you want to check off of a list, right? He was all these things. And it just, in my growing up, we were in a strict household to the most part. Like if we go to school, after school, we go home before we go to your friend's house. And before I go to my friend's house, I need to let my mom know when, where, how you get home, when you coming home.
Right.
And then also be home before the lights.
Yeah, of course.
So I was in that type of a home, mom and dad there. So we just kind of followed those rules. And I think now in hindsight, looking back, I think because I was already set up that way to kind of follow those instructions that I was born with, it was easy for this person to be controlling of me.
Got you.
Because you knew how to follow lead.
Because I follow
instructions.
So I met
And
this
that was
man.
a comfortable space.
Yeah, beautiful man. I don't mind telling you where I'm going, because if something happens to me now, you know where I am.
Right.
But that can be twisted in another light if it's depending on who has the information. So I think it was just a lot easier. I was a lot passive. I was more passive then. So meeting him, being with him, the first 6 months were great. I didn't have to worry about anything. In the midst of that, I lost my job. He was super supportive, like all the things that you would want in a relationship.
Yeah,
I got the support. I got the communication. I got the fun, the laughter. We went out, had fun, and it started every 3 to 6 months, something new. That was like, but I didn't know what it was.
Right.
You know, I looked at it in a different light. So we go out, and he doesn't want me talking to this guy or this guy, and I'm like, oh, he cares.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm like, okay.
I know how that gets perceived.
Yeah, like he cares about me.
Yeah. You think it's love, and
but it's not,
something
right?
else.
And then just, you know, gradually, it literally went in stages as I think back, you know, first 6 months, great. The next 6 months, arguing, mistrust. The next 6 months, where you going? Who you going with? I don't want you there. And then after that, it was just kind of like, okay, now you're yelling. Now you're disrespectful. Now you're pushing. Then you're hitting. Now you're getting even more creative. So I experienced a lot of the physical to the point of tying my hands behind my back and beating me. That physical to the point of, you know, it really killed me because I felt like a slave would feel. You know, I'm getting my back beat, and then he's making me a bath of peroxide and alcohol, and I have to get in there. It just got to a point where I was too scared to leave. During the course of that relationship, being pulled over by the police, having checks at the home, for whatever reason, the police did not touch him.
Wow.
So that that made me lose confidence in, like,
you didn't feel like you had a safe space.
No one's gonna help you.
And I thought that for myself. You know, maybe someone would have if I would have reached out in a different manner. But just in seeing that, I was like, I won't get on.
I mean, it's the people that are paid to protect, not
but the
protecting.
thing also with the police is like they
don't want to be bothered.
Not only do they not want to be bothered, but someone has to be like within losing their life before they want to take action. So they're not about preventative care.
Yes.
They're about fixing something after it's happened, and that
reactive.
The reactive versus proactive.
The only good thing with the police is because the area we lived in, they came.
Right.
They came quick, so I was like,
at least they came.
They're gonna come.
Temporary relief, right?
But he just had a way. He was a manipulator,
right?
A king of manipulation. So he had a way to verbalize whatever, and then still me, I'm scared. So when they ask me, "Ma'am, are you okay? Is everything okay?"
Because at some point they're gonna leave, and you still got to deal with the aftermath.
Yeah,
and so we get
which is sometimes worse because now you got people involved in my business.
Right. Now you put me on paper.
Yep.
Right.
Now you got, you know, get put over. He literally is getting smart with the police officer, and I'm just like, oh, he finna get it. I'm like, yes,
keep going.
Yeah, like keep going.
Digging your own hole.
And they don't do anything. So I'm like, what? So I felt like you know, and then too, you know, with family, they were there to support, but they can only do so much when I keep going back.
Right.
So it's like you know, people were like, why aren't you mad at your mom and your dad and your brother for not helping? I'm like, I can't be, because when I called out for help, I went back. And I went back a bunch of times. So, and that's just a part of that
cycle.
DV cycle and process, you know. So that's
Okay.
some
Okay.
stuff,
I got questions, but we got to get to, okay. So tell us a little bit about your story, Miss Yolanda.
What hurts my heart, and I went to therapy. I still go to therapy.
Oh, okay.
When I was younger, sexual abuse, emotional abuse, and physical abuse was normal. So I didn't know that what was happening to me was wrong.
Right.
So growing up, what ended up happening is I got in. Okay, let's just be real. I'm gonna be real because I think that's just time for that.
Absolutely.
When I was a younger girl, I was a cute girl. Okay. Lots of guys liked me, and they liked to talk to me.
And still cute now, man.
Over here being cute.
Was no was, you are.
And but I was the type of woman that would easily fall in love. Okay. And so what ended up happening is I met a guy, and when I wrote the story too, I kind of had it backwards. I had the first abuse first, but it was really second.
Gotcha.
So I got involved with a guy, and he was living at my house, and I had my son, and I just got tired of him being there because he took me to work. He took me to my second job. He controlled me. And so I asked him to leave my house.
Okay.
So he went into my closet and pulled a gun out and held it to my head.
Oh, was that the first sign of abuse?
Because I said I grew up with abuse.
You didn't. Okay.
I didn't know
the signs
that this was bad. It shouldn't happen. Gotcha. I just thought this is what happens.
Okay.
And so I was finally able to get him out of there by calling the police, but he moved his brother into my apartment complex. Oh. He stalked me outside of my house. He stalked me at my job. I would drive places, he would show up. And so one day he had met me at a car wash, and I was there. Back in the day, we used to call it, when we would talk with each other, politicking. And so I was out at the car wash politicking with some of my friends, and they was looking behind me like, there's somebody who want to talk to you. And I turned, and he was standing there going, I was like, oh Lord. So he's like, just get in the car, I just want to talk to you for a minute. And I was like, don't get in the car. But then the other side of me was like, maybe he'll calm down. As soon as I got in the car, he took off probably about 100 miles an hour. Oh. And now this is up and down MLK, Union Avenue, Arbor. Wow. You know how small those streets are. And he was like, yeah, you don't want to be with me no more? I'm going to kill you. I'm going to kill you. And before that happened, you know, he would get mad at me, and he would hit me and knock me out, choke me out. Just and I was a woman that I really respected myself and loved myself, but then I thought about, like, girl, you don't really love yourself. After I got older, that wasn't love. That was really it came from childhood. That was normal. Yeah. And so he took me to the back of his grandmother's house and poured a big gulp on my head. So back in the 90s, girls went to the salon every week to get their hair done. Right. And I had my hair like finger waved up, you know, whatever.
That was
it was.
And so he had rock rollers in a cage. He let them out, and they were surrounding me. He said, I'm gonna let my rock rollers tear you up. And next thing I know, you know, he's hitting me, and I'm thinking I'm gonna die. His grandma came out and said, let that girl go and leave her alone. He was like, but she hurt me, Grandma, but she didn't want me no more. And she looked at me, and she took me by my shoulder, and she said, you stay away from him. Yep.
Wow.
And so for about 3 or 4 years after that, he was still stalking me. So he stalked me to the point I had gotten a new relationship with a man. This man went to my son's father's house and told him my baby was his.
Oh wow.
So he was nonstop stalking me. And then when the police, I had a restraining order. Whenever it was time for them to come get him, they wouldn't get him. So when he put the gun on me, he also actually took, remember those big TVs? They weren't big screens, but they was real big, like 300 pounds. And
with the big fat backs?
Yeah.
They were like, it was
on one of the days he had abused me, he grabbed my TV and ran out. And then he had his family members calling me going, yeah, that's why we got your TV.
First of all, those were heavy. How was he moving so fast?
But you know,
you don't just put it under your arm.
Crazies are strong. Them crazy people are strong as hell.
When I found out my son was 3 months old. When I found out he went to my son's father's house and was telling him that was his, sir, please go to school and learn how babies are created. There's no way that we haven't dealt with each other in 3 years. There's no way this is your child.
Right.
I seen his mom and May-Kay, and she was like, he want to see his baby. Now, mind you,
so his family helped aid his craziness.
Right.
Oh,
so
God.
I'm a brown-skinned girl. My son's father is RU2's color, and my son is Yatu color. I know that genetics skips things,
right? But not that much.
But ain't no way.
Ain't no way this nougat baby.
This is not your child, right? So finally, I came outside one day, and he was sitting outside my car. He was sitting outside my house in my car. But before that, there's so many episodes of beating me, hitting me, taking me to work, me having sunglasses on, and I'm a bomb female. That's my thought right there.
I'm too good for
why
this.
am I being beat? Why am I being beaten?
Right.
And so I literally had to take my son. By then he was 6 months.
Okay.
And my oldest son was 7, and I had to leave the state. And I moved to Las Vegas, Nevada.
Okay.
Was that a better situation for you in Vegas?
It was a lot better for me.
Okay.
I have such bad feelings behind Vegas.
Vegas is real bad now.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So I lived there. I moved there in '99, and then I believe 2002, 2003, I met another man.
Okay.
And we got married. And I moved to Georgia, and we bought a house. And he was really nice to my children. One day I came home, and my oldest son was standing outside in the cold. And I said, "Why are you standing out in the cold?" And he said, "I can't come in the house because if I don't want to listen to him, then I'm going to stand outside and freeze."
Oh.
So I went in the house, and I said, "You locked my son outside in the cold." And he was like, "Yeah, and I'll do it again."
Wow.
And so one time we were in a fight, and he lifted his hands to hit me, and my oldest son walked in and saw him with his fists to hit me.
Right.
And I screamed at my son, "Call the police." Because I thought, as a mother, to let my black son see a man hit me,
Right.
I could never live that down.
It's a ripple effect of so much stuff.
Yeah. If I didn't do something, so I ended up. He was in the military. I had to end up calling the sergeant, getting him out of there. So what he would do a lot of stuff. He would call and be like, "I'm on my way home. I'm on my way home." And then one day he was on his way home, and I seen someone drop him off down the street in a truck, and he came running up. But he had been my youngest son, who was 3, when 3-year-old boys are often attached to their mother. So when he would try to come and cuddle with me, he would call him names like, you effing, what you do, you suck D? I mean, he talked to my, yes.
Oh, man.
And I was thinking, God, I moved to this place. And so I had won a lawsuit against a company.
Okay.
They call a whistleblower. But they was making us work overtime and wasn't paying us. So the Labor Department I did a lawsuit. I won a $50,000 lawsuit. Gave my lawyer $20,000 and $30,000. I wasn't thinking. Now at that time we was married. I wasn't thinking at the time that he wasn't focused on my money because we had been dating for a moment.
He was around before then.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So when I moved there, he was. You know the Kirby vacuums that are $1,000.
Yes.
He wanted an Escalade that was $5,000. He was just going through
He
was scheming through my money. So one day the neighbor said to me, "You're my friend, and I want to tell you something. Your husband's been going on the weekend to see an ex-girlfriend and cheating on you. And because I care about you, I don't want that to happen." Because he was so abusive to me and my kids. When he came home one day, I had a weed whacker. You know, the one that you
oh Lord,
you whack the car. And so I bought the Escalade. So the Escalade was destroyed by me. But
that's right.
In the process, what he would do is one night I put my children to sleep, and my oldest son, he was 7 at the time, he grabbed my hand before I walked out, and he's like, "Mom, are you going to be okay tonight?" And I was like, "Why you say that?" He said, "Because I hear you screaming." And I said, "I'm going to be okay tonight." So this is going to be a little graphic. Hopefully it's not too graphic for the news.
Okay.
But he was a man that watched pornography. And so he would want me to watch pornography with him. Naked. But stripped naked and watch pornography. And then he would like to strangle me till I passed out.
Wow.
One night I was strangled till I passed out, and I woke up, and it was like I wasn't gonna make it. And he said, "BITCH, get up. You pretending like you harmed and there's nothing wrong with you. So I'm like going through this and I'm like, I bought this house. I took my kids out of what they had. And so I called my friend in Las Vegas and I was like, can I send my kids there? Because I'm getting ready to leave.
Oh, yeah.
And I got to run for my life. So he would do stuff like, so the final straw was he locked my son outside again. And I had a mental trigger that flipped. And I came and I said, you locked my son outside. And he was like, yeah, I locked that derogatory homophobic slur outside. And so I took a chair and hit him.
Oh,
you snapped.
You had that Tina Turner moment in the limo. Yeah. Okay.
He chased me around the table. When he got his hands on me, he beat me within an inch of my life.
Oh, wow.
And at that moment, I said, girl, like, you're Yolanda Antoinette Williams. There were so many incidents. I would leave in night robes to a hotel and everything like that. And I didn't know that after all, I eventually left him. And because we were signing a deed, he was trying to work me out of the money and the deed. And then I moved back to Las Vegas. And guess what he did?
Moved to Las Vegas.
He moved to Las Vegas. So I was like, and then he was pretending to be nice to my kids again. And I was like, it was just so much.
Your oldest, when he was locking him out, he was 7?
He was 7 years old. And he was in Georgia. It was like winter at the time. So he was very cold.
It can get cold down
there, too.
Yeah.
I know.
Oh, yeah.
I've spent
and then my youngest son, I think one time he seen me with a black eye.
Okay.
And he wouldn't look at me. He just would hold his head down and he would cry. And I said,
shame for you.
I said, oh my God, if I do not fix this situation, I'm going to have black men I'm raising traumatized beyond words. And they might end up to be abusers.
Right.
They might look at me and never respect me the same or whatever. And so
it can be a lot of things that happen out of those situations. And I wonder, so how long did it take for both of you guys to get out of your situations?
The first situation, because he stalked me so long, it took about 3 years.
Okay.
The second situation, we were only married a year, and at the end of it, after being beaten so bad in the way he treated me, I left.
All that in a year. Jeez.
When you were beaten the way you were the police involved? Did they help you?
I called his sergeant, and he made him move out of the home.
But police didn't come like they came to your home? There were no...
No, the police were like in that town in Warner Robins, Georgia. It's a military town, so the police and the military are in cahoots. And so his sergeant made him stay out for a couple of weeks, and then said, "Oh, he's better. He can come back."
Right.
No, I think that he wanted to destroy me, because who I was. Like he was like, "Who she thinks she is? I'm gonna break her down."
That's a whole power thing. Like it's like I'm gonna get someone that I think is fine, bad, all break these things, down. And I'm gonna break her because that makes me more powerful and in control, and I'm above her at this point.
Right.
Yeah. It's about lifting himself by putting you down.
Right. And then how long did it take for you to get out of your situation?
For me to successfully get out, it took 8.5 years.
Wow.
Before I left, we were living with his family, and when we're living somewhere else and we're not paying, let me clean up, let me do things around the house. And it was his female cousin.
Okay.
So I offered to do things around the house that needed to be done. But that turned into, oh, you're a lesbian. You're cheating on me with my cousin. And I'm like, nah, that's not me. So that turned into fighting or him beating me. And what happened was he was also into construction.
Oh, okay.
He was in construction, so he had a lot of tools. So when he thought me and his cousin were messing around or what have you, he beat me with the industrial hammer.
Oh, jeez.
And he beat me so much where I lost consciousness. Oh, wow. This is the first time I've ever been out. When I woke up, I didn't know what was going on. I just know he was standing over me, shaking me. Kenyatta, wake up, wake up. So I'm thinking, what's wrong?
Right.
Everything's fine.
Right.
I didn't feel any pain. And then I see my son sitting at the edge of the bed, and he was just watching TV. He was 5 at the time.
Trying to zone it out.
So he was just sitting there, and I'm like, in my mind now thinking, why is he standing over me, shaking me, asking if I'm okay? And my son is just sitting there motionless. And then just like at that moment, my arm started throbbing. I had blood all down my arm, blood on my clothes, and then this other family member came. He went into the front room, and I was just like, I can't be here anymore. Right. Like, this is not going to work. So it was a 1-level apartment out in Gresham. I jumped out the window of the bedroom, and I'm reaching for my son to come, but he was too scared to come. So now I'm at this point, like, now I'm outside the window. Jumping out is easy. Jumping in. So I'm now trying to get back in before he comes into the room. And I can't get back in. Now my arms, I can feel the pain, and I can't lift up. So it's like I had to leave. In my mind, I was like, he's not going to hurt my son, because that was his first son, and that was like his prized possession, you know. So I ran all the way down to Division, ran up, and I ended up jumping 2 fences, which I did not know I can do.
Because that adrenaline,
yeah. So there was I can't think of the name of the school, but it's right there off of Division, 182nd, I think, Division. Okay. So it was in the middle of a field. It was an open field, and I jumped in the garbage can, the little blue garbage cans. And I was like, I'm just going to duck down as far as I can. I know that he can't see me unless he was standing right on the porta potty that was next to me. Okay. I heard these car wheels on the gravel, and I'm like, he found me. He must have seen me.
Oh, gosh.
You know, this is probably going to be it for me. And then I was in there for like an hour, and I keep hearing cars, and I'm hearing doors. Right. When I finally decided to pop out, I was counting to like 100 over and over and over, so I can like get the courage to pop out, because now I'm hearing people. People are throwing garbage on me. And when I pop out, it's like a whole Little League situation. It's like 4 or 5 games. Oh no! So I just got up and I just, that's
never mind me.
And they looked at me like, this black girl jumping out of the garbage, and I was like embarrassed, but at the same time, I'm like, he's not here because it's too many people. And I just remember walking down Powell, not knowing where to go. I was too proud to
and
go
still
to my mom's
injured
house.
at this point, like, cause
still injured.
Yeah.
Well, actually, excuse me. Before I jumped out, I changed my clothes.
Oh, okay.
So I was still injured, but I didn't
least
have
not
blood.
blood.
You look good though.
Yeah. I was all right.
May not have smelled too.
She didn't look okay.
Smelled like trash, but I look good.
That part, right? So I ended up like just walking and catching the bus to my mom's house. And as I was crossing the street to go to my mom's to say, you know what, swallow your pride, just tell her. Because I think a part of it was I didn't want my mom to know what was going on. When my mom first met him, she said something about him I don't like. That made me mad, because I was like, he's just everything.
Right, and now she's right.
Right.
And
pissed you off.
Now I got to tell her she's right.
Right.
So I was afraid to do that, but I was like, you know what, I'm going to, because this is different. You know, even though he was still beating me, and that's not different, but I'd never been knocked unconscious.
Yeah. So I'm curious, because I know that we've talked a lot about like the trauma and the things that have happened, but where's the healing part? Like, how do people get out of that situation? And like, we know that you guys had like your breaking points, right? But what are the resources that you guys were able to tap into that really supported you in those moments?
During my time, people were giving me resources, but I wasn't. Even when I was away, he was still controlling me.
Got you.
We went through a whole court proceeding with me and him together, trying to get custody of my son back.
Oh, wow.
So
because you left him.
Because I left him, but during the courts, he still had that control. So I thought that me and him had to show that we were a happy couple in order to get our son. Oh, wow. Because I wasn't in the stage to get my son.
And again, the only reason why he had your son is because you had to escape.
Because when I escaped, I was gone for 3 months. Okay. And he applied for state assistance, got food stamps.
Of course.
So
he became the primary.
Parent.
Yep. I know
and
exactly
I was
how that goes.
Yeah. So, and then one other time he came back after 3 months, and I was like, I need to see my son. So I see my son. I go outside of my mom's house with no shoes on, because I'm like, he's not gonna do anything if I have in front of my mom's house and no shoes on. I get in the car. He asked me what I was doing for the whole 3 months. I'm honest. I told the truth what happened. He didn't believe me. He slammed my head on the dashboard.
Oh.
He was doing carpentry in an apartment up the way, so he drove to that apartment. My son was in the back seat. He went in. He said, "I'm going to tell my boss that I'm leaving for the day, and I'm going to come back and whoop your ass." So he goes in the building inside the complex, and I'm just like, I can't. Oh. So I go out the window, and I try to get my son. My son is holding on to the seatbelt. He was too scared to leave. So I'm outside the door.
Yeah.
I don't know when he's coming out, so I had to leave. So a big part of that for me, it really affected me a lot emotionally because I left my son yet again.
Right.
Come to find out, my son had marks on his neck.
Oh God!
When I found out that his dad did that,
was harming him.
It made me even more like I'm terrible. I was too busy protecting myself to not protect my son. So I still fight with that, internally.
But they, like when you're taking the flight and the airline attendants talk about in the event of emergency and the mask, you have to protect yourself before you can even help anybody else.
Right.
Yes.
No, that's
so it's like,
so that is
as much as that may be hard to digest that you had to leave your son, you wouldn't be any assistance to your son had you stayed.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
And then there's that part of it. Even just going through that process, the help that I did receive from domestic violence centers, because I wasn't in the state of mind to accept it, I wasn't with it. I'm in rooms with women who drown their babies, who do this. I'm like, oh, I would never do that. And I set myself outside of them, not thinking about the overall situation that they're in. Yeah.
Right.
So I didn't accept it.
Yeah.
I didn't really accept
what was
help.
it like for you to heal and to work through some of that? How did you come to a better place, headspace?
What happened was after I had, and these are just 10% of what happened
absolutely.
to me in my
life.
life.
It's a very short,
So what I went through was, and this may not be for everybody. I talked to God, and I was like, God, why am I going through this? Why am I suffering? And the Lord said, you keep choosing the same thing over and over and over and over again. And when I created you in your mother's womb, I knew you before you were formed. And I got mad. I was like, wait a minute. So I'm doing everything that I can to be a good woman to these people, and they treat me like trash. And I went to a season of celibacy of just loving on myself.
Right.
Going to get facials, massages, spending time with my kids. And I would have little incidents that happened where I would have really dark periods of depression.
Yeah.
And people would be like, you need therapy. And in my family, therapy's taboo. Ooh,
people don't.
You don't go to therapy. You go to church.
Black people don't do therapy.
Right.
And so I started going to therapy. I started praying, and I began to read my Bible, and I began to recognize my identity.
Yeah.
And I said, if I'm good to you, why would you be wrong? Treat me wrong.
Right.
And I said, God, I'm not going to never let another man treat me like this. I'm not going to never. I have, family, people in my family, they get mad at me because I come roll through.
She said, I'm not the same me that I used to be.
The brothers that are mistreating them.
Right.
And they want to stay with them. And so I said, well, you want to stay with him? When he done hitting you upside your head, we'll talk about it. I had to take something deep within myself, and I had to know my worth.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying I did it on my own. I did it through therapy. I did it through prayer. I did it through self-help books. And I because I've had near-death experiences. I said, God, you ain't got me on this earth still living after what I've been through.
Right.
To not accomplish anything.
Right.
So I said, God, I'm going to take what you directed me to do, and I'm going to put my all in it. And I have a husband now. We've been married It's gonna be 11 years.
Oh wow.
He's from the South.
Congratulations.
Yes, okay.
He treats me like a queen to the point that he'd be like, you getting treated so much like a queen.
Oh.
You lazy right now. Can you please get up and get your own water?
And well deserved. She'd be like, no, ding, 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 ding. I got this bell for a reason.
I had to. There's a song out called "Loving Myself." Loving myself. I don't think that until you come into the knowledge of loving yourself.
Yeah.
And it comes through therapy.
Yeah.
It comes through other women that are empowered. Because one thing I don't think you should do is have conversations with single women that are also being beaten. Because they're going to tell you, girl, he loved you. He wouldn't put hands on you if he didn't.
Yeah.
I don't think you should hear advice from older women that have been with men for 50 years that he done had 50,000 kids and he's still beating on them. You need to get with women that build you up and say, you too good for that, and you can do this and you can do that. It is a process that you still go through years after. I don't know no woman that's ever been battered that can say that she don't have no feeling where she didn't feel that hurt.
Right.
It's a consistent learning thing.
I know that you both had kind of shared that there were signs early on, and I know that you said you didn't recognize the signs, but looking back you do. So what are some things that women can recognize that might be grooming for this type of relationship?
The man want to be the king of the house.
But isn't that what women want though? So we got to work.
But this is the point. I was listening to this lady named Princella, the Queen Maker.
Okay.
And she said that jewelry. So you see men that wear jewelry that attracts women. You see men that have nice cars that attract women. Money attracts women. In reality, women are attracted to feminine energy. So now think about it. Money says, look at me.
Luxury.
Right.
Cars say, look at me.
Yeah.
Because it kind of gives off the vibe that you have it so you can take care of me. But
and even with married people,
sometimes.
Married men, they said they're the most sought after man in the world.
Because they got that jewelry on their hands.
But why?
Because
it's feminine energy. So I think that the thing that comes into play with that is that women as a whole, instead of us recognizing that we are a sistership, we look at each other as competition.
Facts.
I'm going to do something here right now. Looking at you, I don't have the bedroom eyes that you have.
Thank you, baby.
Looking at you, I don't have the silky smooth skin you got.
Do I? Yes. Come on.
And the beautiful cheekbones.
Oh,
and looking at you, I don't see your beautiful smile. So we're looking at each other as competition. And often men who are abusive, and I'm not saying they not all cheaters, but they got their choice of the women, because in the 90s, the worst that we could do to dress in trampy was Daisy Dukes.
Look at them girls.
The women today, everything, the bra, the panty liner and things like that. So I think that, we got to recognize who we are as women. And if I look different from you, Kenyatta, that's because God created me to look different from you, or you. It's all the thing that we got to set standards for ourselves. If we don't set standards for ourselves, men, now we got to think about it. A lot of men came from broken homes where there wasn't a father.
Right.
There's
and the mothers were having different boyfriends running through and everything like that. So I'm not excusing the abuser, but who abused him?
What happened to you?
Yeah, who abused him?
Yeah.
Who did he have to look up to?
Right.
So I think that if we take that self-love and we love ourselves and we know how to love ourselves,
set the example for
then we can then learn how to love a man, and then we can see if he's coming to us with negative energy and he want to tear us down. I'm gonna tell you this: we see the red signs, we see the red flags,
right?
But we don't want to accept the red flags. because
toys.
we're looking
we
for
also
stuff.
want to be the exception, not
Right.
the rule.
Right.
'Cause
So
I
he's not
haven't-
going to
and
do
I
it
think
to
too-
me because
Exactly.
it's everybody else, not me.
And I think too, for me, I know that everyone is not perfect. Right. When you're with somebody, there's going to be something about that person that you don't like.
Right.
Whatever that one thing is, or those two things, can you live with it throughout the rest of your life? So when you have that kind of mindset, it allows you to be more open to accept some of the things that other people may deem as negative, right? So I think too, when you're looking at the signs, it just depends on that person, how they were brought up, what they've done in their life, to know if to see if they have that ability or that power to manipulate. Right. And sometimes when people manipulate, it's not always in a bad way, but when they realize, oh, I could do that with this.
Get power.
And I think it just kind of, it gets they get overboard with it. You know, they just kind of keep going with it. And like, what else can I do? What else can I do? And like for me, I didn't go through therapy. The therapy I went through was court order, which I wasn't there for. I was just there to finish it and be done.
Yes. Right.
When I did go to therapy, I understand what therapy is for. I want to try it.
Yeah.
But then the first therapist that I went to go see, I felt like all they wanted was to be done. And make that money because it was court
finding
order.
the right therapist
so
is hard.
You were listening to me, and I'm crying. I'm telling you everything that's happening, and now we got 5 minutes left. So now you say,
time is going
okay,
off,
we'll see you next week.
Right.
So I'm supposed to come back
and
next
do this
week
again.
And,
it's emotionally draining.
The only reason why I went to therapy, and I wanted a black therapist, right?
Yeah.
And so I met with her. And her therapy was, it was more like a gossip session. She wanted to know, what he do? Then what you say about it? Then what happened? And I ended up going to a white therapist. And let me tell you why. So if let's say we all through 3, 4, 5, 6, God help me, this drink.
Girl, I see you like chewing on that fruit.
I was like, that pineapple good, ain't it? All infused and stuff.
If we all know a mutual friend, and they know you, they know you, they know you, they know you, they know me,
Sharon,
and we're telling them our thought, how can they really be non-biased? Because they know you and they know me. There's going to be a bias there.
There's bias in everybody.
Yeah.
So when I went to my therapist, she didn't know me from a can of paint.
yes,
Right. Yeah.
And she was a white woman. And I'm not saying that they don't know, but there are some cultural
For those that are
people
listening,
you
Portland
need to
is a very small black community, so
Yes.
everybody knows everybody. It's hard. We find it hard to build trust amongst people who we got to share secrets with.
Yeah.
It's very difficult. There are people out there, so we're not saying that there's not, but I totally understand what you're saying, and people might not understand like why it's so difficult to find a non-biased, a non-connected black therapist in Portland. It's tough sometimes.
Yeah.
I know, but God, this is such a good this is so much, and
I
I'm like,
wish
I
we had
feel
more
like
time.
I know.
I do.
I want to know just quickly, like, if you could give one piece of advice to yourself at a younger age, knowing what you know now, what would it be?
Besides run, besides listen to your mama, it's just kind of just pay attention to what's going on. Understand and know what you want for yourself.
Okay.
I think for me, because I was still building up my me, I didn't know what Kenyatta wanted. I didn't know what I wanted to do. Just on that spectrum, I didn't know what I want to be. So I'm just out here trying things. Yeah. So just in the midst of trying things and seeing what works, that whole hitting the spaghetti against the wall type of thing, seeing what sticks, just kind of reflect on like, what is important to me? What are my values? What do I deem to be important for myself? Right. And I think a lot of people don't do that. Even just recently, some of this, the folks that have come to me for assistance and like, where can I go for this help? A lot of this is like, what do you want for yourself? Yeah. It's going to be hard, but you got to come back to you first so you know what to do next. Yeah. So I think that in hindsight, looking back, I wish I would have been the me now. Yeah. But also what I've been through made me who I am now. Yeah, absolutely. So even though I don't like what I've been through or how I went through it, I'm happy that it happened because now it opened my eyes up to a lot of different things, how to communicate, how to talk to people, how to help people. So I just think understanding what we want individually is important.
Okay. And what about you?
Mine is don't follow your heart. Follow your mind. Because your heart wants what it wants. Yeah. And your mind is there for logical things.
Got you.
So if you are following your heart, this could be the biggest red like this person could be terrible.
Yeah.
But you love them.
Yeah.
So you're following them. But if you take one moment to listen to your mind's logic, you'll find like, this isn't a good idea. And even though it's going to tear my heart apart, I got to find my logic. So I would say follow your mind and not your heart.
I love it. And where can people go to buy tickets for this event?
Okay. They can go on to my page, Yolanda Merriweather. They can go on to Kenyatta Trice's place because it is also shared on hers.
The Facebook page.
I was going to say, is your page Instagram or Facebook?
Facebook.
Okay.
They can also go to my Facebook page, Inner Beauty in You. And they can also inbox Kenyatta or me or Calandra for tickets as well.
Beautiful. And so they can find you personally if they have information, or if they want to.
Girl, I'm all over Facebook.
She's everywhere. Okay. just look up Yolanda Merriweather. You can find her and she's available.
Just real quick though, when is the cutoff date when's the absolute latest? Because I want people not to sleep on getting their tickets.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because we have a limited amount of tickets, we can get a bigger room if necessary.
Okay.
But I would like for people to buy their tickets by May 1st. Because the event is May 4th.
Okay.
And I want to emphasize,
get them now.
Yeah, get them now.
People are kind of caught up on the point that it's a fundraiser. It's a fundraiser. It is a appreciation dinner with a seminar, and any funds that we make beyond it will be donated.
Yeah.
And so it is a tax write-off as well.
It is a tax write-off. They will receive a receipt, 501c3 tax deductible receipt. But it is to Kenyatta. What is the actual
organization?
Organization you wanted to donate to?
I thought it was dope that she did ask me what organization do I want any of the additional proceeds to go to, and I'm like, that's cool. So I selected Women's First.
Okay.
It's a she's gonna get me, but Shannon Olive with Women's First. It's a transitional resource center.
Okay.
And it helps women who have been domestically abused or women who are trying to get back onto the right track in different areas of their lives. Oh, that's
dope. That's amazing. Okay. And where can they find you, Miss Kenyatta Trice, if they want some support services?
Facebook under Kenyatta Trice. On Facebook in Trice OCS or Instagram, it's Yada Boombada.
I like that.
But they can find me there, and I'll be posting throughout the
and we'll
next
be sure
month.
to share your guys' content as well.
Nick B, where can they find you?
So I can be found on all platforms of Dirty Roses Podcast, including our website, dirtyrosespodcast.com. And you can follow us on our social media on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. If you want to reach me personally, I can be found on Instagram at NickB_Nick B. That's Nick with a K. And Miss Leela, where can we find you?
Yes, you can find me everywhere. On all platforms, it's Leighlarie, LEIGHLARIE. And again, like Nick B said, on dirtyrosespodcast.com. And we will catch y'all next time. Bye.
Thanks.
Guess what, Rose Buddies? We are thrilled to introduce our new sponsorship packages. Be sure to hit us up at dirtyrosespodcast.com to inquire how we can showcase your brand on our platforms.